Thank you for joining us. This is Paul Wilson.
And Chris Emke.
You're listening to the Diesel Performance Podcast. We got a special guest today on the show, Matt Chambers from Alligator Performance. Matt, how the hell are you?
Doing good, guys. Man, it's been a little while since I've talked to you, but yeah, doing good.
Absolutely. Yeah, we actually tried to book this interview months ago and had some technical difficulties. We've worked all those technical difficulties out, and we wanted to get Matt to be our first phone guest back on the show.
In months.
In months, yeah, absolutely. And that's because we're very excited about Ultimate Callout Challenge and Diesel Performance Industry Expo coming up in May. And Matt, you guys are directly involved in that over at Alligator Performance.
Yeah, just a little bit. We've been working with those guys for years, and it seems like the show's getting bigger and bigger, and more spectators, more competitors. You know, bringing on a bunch of new sideshows. The DPI Expo is growing huge. It's becoming a fun time, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Now, when you guys first got involved, it was really just in its very infancy stage, if I remember correctly. You guys were involved in the first year or the second year you guys got into it? Oh,
it was absolutely the first year. We got with James back in the day and kind of a back office conversation of like, what should we do to really spike huge interest and help grow the industry? And, something that's not, just a standard event, something that will be completely new. And so we kind of threw around a bunch of ideas and so that's kind of how far back this kind of went is, I think it's been 4 or 5 years now. And then I think it was 3 or 4 years ago is when the first event happened in Utah. And it was, I think, like 5 or 6 vendors there and a handful of competitors and not a whole lot of people there for spectating. And then it seems like it just blew up overnight.
Yeah, it really did. I mean, this is an event that, of course, spawned from basically a Facebook argument for just the most simplified version of the history of Ultimate Callout Challenge. And it really did. It just kind of exploded overnight. And now the Diesel Performance Industry Expo, the DPI Expo, largest conglomeration of diesel performance vendors I think I've ever seen. And that includes SEMA or any other shows. What do you think, Chris?
Well, last year was my first year. Followed it year one in Utah and then, Indianapolis the last few years. Being there last year, with the podcast and with Calibrated Power, it was a sight to see. I mean, you can't put into words the turnout, the event as a whole. And the DPI Expo is just, the biggest shops, the biggest names, the biggest companies in a parking lot per se. The Alligator's booth was nothing short of impressive. We had our Scottsdale over there as well, and they're just really welcoming. The guys over at Alligator and any of the other mail orders that are out there, or the tuning shops. We're a competitor against other guys, and you go walk up to their booth, shoot the shit. It's just a good time. Everyone's really welcoming. So
it's very much an enthusiast group of people. Like you go to SEMA, there's 150,000 people at SEMA with I don't even know how many booths and trucks are there, and you kind of just get shell-shocked the whole thing. Then there's a PRI. It's a great event there. There's a lot more niched enthusiast groups there as well, the performance side of things, especially in the diesel world. But yeah, the DPI Expo and what UCC has become is unreal. It's a very, very closed, enthusiast-based group, and I think we're over like 100-ish or 120 vendors now at DPI Expo, and it's growing. And there's the people there that, spectator-wise, that can actually go up and talk to any one of these booths. Everybody jumps to the gun and wants to be there to have a good time and laugh, to information, to seeing a show.
Yeah, I mean, seeing the guys, with the different vendor bags and T-shirts, and I mean that's the time for these guys. I mean, there were guys traveling from like California, like spectators and stuff to come to this event, and they go up to you and like, oh, I see you on YouTube, or oh, I talked to you on the phone, and it's nice to just put a face to the name. It becomes a little bit more personable at that point, and It's just people, they're just going booth to booth, and then the following day, like, hey, I just wanted to come see the booth again, and it was a lot of fun, definitely.
Well, I thought one of the things that was really cool is the way that you guys over at Alligator have kind of integrated into the show. So your guys' booth is always right up front. You guys are the title sponsor. So you guys really do get right into the mix of this whole event. And I got to be honest, hearing about the live builds was probably one of the cooler highlights that I look forward to for 2019. Yeah. But I felt terrible when I found out you guys did a live build last year. Is that correct?
No, actually, we didn't do a live build last year. There was a booth, and I can't remember who it was behind us that was doing a live build. And they got the tent that was delivered was small, so it almost seemed like just a garage type of thing where someone was working on a truck that, unfortunately, no one really knew that it was a live truck build. And so we kind of wanted to make our booth, bigger and greater compared to the previous years. And so, our footprint there, like a 40-foot by 100-foot booth. And then on the outskirts of that, we're going to do 2 live builds, open area. So it'll be a little bit fenced off just so people can't walk right in as the mechanics are working on these trucks. But, yeah, we wanted to, change something different. We're going to have a bunch of our guys there to be able to talk with the crowd. You guys are going to be there and be able to talk with the crowd and, see what mechanics they're actually installing on these trucks live at the event.
So I don't know what, information's been leaked or what, but what are the vehicles that are going to be in this live build?
So we started out doing just one. We were going to do a 2018 Ram 6.7, and this is actually my personal truck, and it was one of those, I completely plan on leaving this truck stock, and we walked into a meeting. It was like, man, let's make our presence there at the UCC DPI Expo bigger than what it's ever been. And how are we going to do that? Well, we can open up our booth space. We can bring more people. We can bring some eye-catching displays and everything. But what about doing a full live build there at the event? Where people can stand around and see these industry-leading parts that are going on in this truck and go from a factory setup to a full-blown build in 3 days. Sounded like a badass idea, and we knew it was going to be complicated and knew there was going to be a lot of hurdles on the way. But yeah, kind of just started with that. Is rolled out that 2018 Ram out there, and I didn't really know what we wanted to do at the beginning. So it kind of evolved to I don't want it to be another standard SEMA truck build where it's a guy rocking 44-inch tires, 18-inch lift, and no performance, and then just a wrap on it, maybe some bumpers and grill, and just kind of the accessories. So we kind of rolled into it like at the Ultimate Callout Challenge, let's make the ultimate tow rig, something that the daily guy or the average guy would daily drive this, tow any trailer across country. It's reliable, it's fuel efficient. Leaving emissions intact, so that was another thing we wanted to keep because it seems like a lot of things in the industry right now with the EPA getting involved and people kind of getting their hands slapped and everything. We want to focus in on how to make performance with the emissions intact. So that was kind of the base, and we started doing a few performance things, but we knew that the accessories, the lift kit, wheels, tires was going to be a part of it. But first thing we did is jump to the performance. Being that's kind of our background, we're enthusiasts in power. So we got with ATS and did their Vortex 5000 compound kit. BD, we got one of their fully built transmissions. Some industrial injectors, fleece performance lift pump, and DPF back exhaust system. Doing things, head studs. The stuff that kind of goes along with it. And it kind of just spitballed from there. End up jumping into a 4-inch lift kit from BDS suspension, doing some 35-inch wheels and tires. It just kind of rolled.
Wow.
Absolutely. We're really excited. Chris, this is a similar, nicer build than what you drive every day.
Wow, Paul. Yeah, not everyone can afford a BMW, man.
Hey.
But no, I have a lot of experience. My 15 has the Aurora Vortex compound on it and different injection pump from Exergy. And I'm a little jealous of you, Matt, with the fleece in the tank pump setup, man. That's really slick. I'm excited to see that in person and see how that turns out.
Yeah, we
Can
are
we
too.
talk real
That's-
quick about some of your guys' part selections with this, Matt?
Yeah.
What were you guys? Now, you wanted to do emissions equipped. You wanted to do something power. Can you kind of explain to our listeners why you wanted to go after injectors and supply fuel? How is that going to impact the build overall?
Yeah, so we trying to explain that right. So, kind of going into it, we wanted to bring in all the manufacturers that were going to be at the DPI Expo, and build something that's going to be just more than what a programmer gives, but leaves the emissions intact. And we know that the ATS Vortex kit can do that. It has that manifold that's allowing you to leave the stock turbo in there and get around all the emission stuff and the cooler and whatnot, and then be able to upgrade the fueling. We know that the factory fuel pump or the lift pump's not going to be efficient for that 600, 700 horsepower range. And so that's when we jumped in that Fleece in-tank pump. And that's a great looking setup, great performing setup, rated for 170 gallons per hour, good for 800, 850 horsepower trucks. This truck will never make it to that point. It's going to be a solid daily driven, reliable truck. And then getting solid tuning in there, make this efficient. Kind of overall give it that good build. We're going to change gears too. We got with nitro gears, and we're doing 411 gears in it to play with the ratios there, so we're not so low in the RPMs when we're towing heavy up steep grades and everything. We're in the Northwest, so the Rocky Mountains here, we're changing elevation quite often. So kind of doing an overall just badass tow build on that. And along with that, though, here recently we ended up bringing up a second truck, which is a whole monster of its own. Something new in the industry is that 2018 Ford F-150 with a 3-liter Power Stroke in it. And that one's starting to unravel and be quite exciting.
Wow. Not only are you doing one build, but you're going to do two builds within a couple days. Nothing could go wrong with this. It sounds
yeah,
awesome.
Nothing can go wrong with this. Yeah, we're kind of pulling our hair out right now. We have three mechanic teams basically. So we have Hunter Inman at Six Nasty Diesel Performance and Matt Fraley from Widowmaker Diesel
cool.
over in Pennsylvania, and they're coming out and they're tackling the 18 Cummins. And then we have a crew from Fleece Performance that are going to come over and tackle that 3.0 Power Stroke. So
cool.
Hunter's good shit, man. You can always trust him on his stuff.
Oh yeah. Both those guys are good, and we've dealt with them for a long time. They've good friends with them. Anytime we go out to the East Coast, we always meet up with them and have a good old time. So we've known them for years.
So $1 million question here, Matt. Are you driving your 18 there?
Man, we thought about it. We're like, instead of bringing, this truck and this trailer and that trailer and everything, why don't we just take, the 18, throw our trailer with all our vent stuff into it and, haul ass to the East Coast? And like, man, there's just so many possible things that could go wrong, Like, one's if something wasn't tightened down and we blow a manifold gasket or maybe a fluid level is wrong or something within the transmission, or maybe some headset issues or an ejector issue or just a fuel line or something like that. We could be heading backward 2,500 miles from home. So we pulled that idea after a couple of months. Like, let's bring another truck. We'll flatbed this one over just in case something goes wrong. And as of right now, we're planning on this to be completely solid, no flaws, no issues. The guys that are working on this are perfect. So I think we'll be good.
And I think the thing here too is you're not advocating that you can do a big build in a weekend. It's eye candy, right? You're allowing the viewers to see something that they might go on YouTube and watch videos on. You guys are going to end up trailering this back, and there's going to be a once-over on the truck. Multiple hands in on it. Am I wrong by saying that?
I'll be a once-over. There's a few things I'll be doing here at the shop just because of time restrictions, like that 4-inch BDS lift kit. It takes about 6 to 8 hours to install that lift kit and getting things realigned and everything. We just don't want to deal with that over on the East Coast when we're 2,500 miles from home and
Absolutely.
On a 3-day period. So I'm going to do that and the pack brake air system here at the shop first. And then we go over there and still the meat and potatoes of the build. We're doing, the compounds, the twin CP3s, the front and rear bumpers, the grill, bed accessories, programming, head studs, injectors. I mean, there's still a ton of stuff that's going just in that one truck. On that 18 Ford, pretty much the majority of it's going to be happening there. We'll do the lift kit here just because of the same reasons. But jumping into front and rear bumpers, wheels and tires, sport hood, the chase racks, because it's going to be kind of a chase truck styled build. Possibly doing a turbo upgrade. We're still working on that. This platform is so new that there's not a whole lot out there for it. So working with Fast to do a lift pump for it. Diamond Eye just got us an exhaust system for it that they've been R&D'ing for us for the last couple of months now. S&B just released their cold air intake for this 3.0 Power Stroke, and we just got that here in the shop last week. So there's a lot of stuff that's still coming in, and that we're still R&D'ing with a lot of these leading manufacturers to try to get parts for this. Just at such a new platform that it's a time crunch for sure.
Absolutely. So, and that's one of the things I wanted to drill in on. When we're talking about a live build, like you said, a few of these things have to get done before the show. So we're going to have a truck there with a few modifications already done. I believe the plan is to not only have guys working on the truck, but also to bring up some of the representatives from these companies that are supplying the parts and let them talk to people and really talk about the real world, like while they're standing next to somebody installing a pump or an intake, and be able to ask those guys questions, be able to hear from those guys about what do we expect to get for performance out of these. I think it definitely makes for a big show. So with something like this going on at UCC, there's so many events this year at Ultimate Callout Challenge, just in general. There's so many. I think you referred to them as sideshows earlier, and I think that's the exact right terminology for it. So many cool things to see that you're not going to get to see anywhere else. I think it's really awesome that you guys are bringing this and letting people kind of come and get involved and really just have a more clear understanding of what it's like to do some of these parts and to do some of these upgrades and accessories and things like that. What else do you guys got planned for this year at UCC?
Man, there's quite a bit. I mean, we're working with, like I said before, over 100 plus vendors going to be there, and we're working with almost every single one of them to bring in special offers and deals and everything just for show specials. We're working on a monster size booth. If you go to SEMA, you see some of those outside booths that are huge, and so we're working on something like that where we can have a fully covered area with a couple show trucks in there. Some different kiosks where you can talk to some of our guys and BS with them, and maybe if you're looking for some parts, they can jump to one of the computers real quick and overnight something or get it to you the next week, and then we'll have our apparel going on there as well. And there's so much else outside of our booth that's it's going to be a blast. It's really nice that they have the pits open to the public now, where you can just kind of walk in there and you can see how some of these guys are Derek Rose and some of the BD teams and the industrial teams and a handful of those guys they're working on the trucks the entire time. I mean, they're doing swaps, they're doing fine tuning things. Right. That's a show of its own. If you just want to hang out in the pits and check out what these guys are doing with some of these huge competition builds, it's wild to see. And then just being able to walk through vendor row, great there. Jump in the stands and watch some of these low timed trucks, full size pickup trucks, just throw down on the track. It's an awesome time.
Absolutely, man. Well, I know I'm getting excited for it. Listeners, as we have more and more details rolling out, we'll be keeping you guys up to date on all of your Ultimate Callout Challenge information. Of course, we are very proud and happy to be the official podcast of Ultimate Callout Challenge. As we mentioned in last week's episode, we also will be doing the announcements, it sounds like, with KJ again for Diesel Power Challenge and Diesel Power Magazine. So big shout out to them.
Yeah, that magazine actually just published.
Oh, that's right. It just dropped.
All of the readers' trucks or the potential competitors is now available for voting.
Yeah.
So
voting is open on Diesel Power Challenge. So get out there, get your magazines, get your votes in. I know I got a special shout out for Brad Sankey, who's got his truck in the running this year. So
he does,
yeah. So
wow.
that should be pretty interesting. And a few other guys that we know as well. So we're really excited for that.
Yeah.
We'll also be going over and doing some interviews with some UCC competitors again. Yeah. Some of the guys who maybe have been there a couple of the years. Mm-hmm. We'd love to get on a couple of the guys that made it through the qualifier.
Yes.
I think getting those qualifiers and talking about, the difference from last year to this year will be really interesting. So
big league.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it, right? Pro-Am to pro. So definitely, if anybody wants to get a hold of Alligator Performance, what's the best way to do that, Matt?
Yeah, either hit us up through the website at alligatorperformance.com. Our phones are always available, or email. Always can hit us through any of our social accounts, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, any of those. We're pretty easily accessible. So we got a great crew here that'll take care of anybody. So yeah, if you got any questions, just hit us up.
Man, dude, I'm getting pumped for UCC 2019.
You said it, Chris. Absolutely.
Oh, man.
As we get closer and closer, it's not just the live build and all of the extra activity that's going on. It's also kind of, like you said, getting ready for it.
Yeah.
Getting our booth ready. I know we have a big colossal booth that you're in love with.
You are shit grinning. I wish our listeners could see this. So for all the lucky guys and gals that came to UCC 2018, we literally have a fucking concert stage as a booth, and it's a really cool booth. We had a couple local street racing events or drag strip, no prep races that we went to where I had to use the booth.
Yeah.
And then UCC, I used it in Kentucky, and maybe a couple other times that I've learned to block out of my mind. But it's a process to get set up. Like, it's not, you pitch a tent in 5 minutes, it's up. Like it's an hour, 2 hour process.
Easy up. Yeah,
no,
for
it
sure.
sucks. And Paul doesn't set it up or take it down.
Hold on, I did an Indy. I did an Indy.
Dude,
yeah.
You did not take it down in Indy.
I did. I was there.
No, you might have helped put it up, but you didn't put it down.
Oh.
You didn't take it down.
Okay, except I lost my at the time brand new wedding ring in the back of a truck because I was loading all of the the truss work in there while you, another sales guy, a tuning guy, and the buddy you brought with you all jumped in your truck and drove back while we were loading it.
Yeah,
and then the giant rainstorm hit at the very, very end of UCC in 2018 that had lightning.
I already left.
And they had to clear out. Yeah, no, you had already gone.
Yeah,
I know.
I already left, right.
I was in the rain with one of our mechanics and a lady friend he had brought to UCC for the day.
Wow. Yeah.
And they helped us pack up.
Man, that's just a blur. Well, I guess you wish you bought a different fucking booth. But nonetheless, man, it's exciting. I remember the beginning of 2018 talking about UCC 2018. We were 5 months away at that point. We're 4 months away right now.
Yeah.
Less than 4 months away.
Yeah.
It's just insane to think about. It's going to be a ton of fun. It seems like it's going to be bigger and badder than ever. So
always
cool.
Always. All right. Well, hey, I want to jump on over to our From Facebook segment, of course, sponsored by WC Fab. Jason Worley and the boys over there do a great job with all of their fabrication and powder coating work. This week, I pulled up an email I got, Chris, to my email. That's Paul@DuramaxTuner.com.
Because you're the more popular one. Right.
It is true. Only statistically.
Only statistically.
And factually.
No, fact.
Okay, so this is from Dylan Headin Nicely.
Yeah. Okay.
Hi, Paul. I'm new to diesel engines, but I just bought a 4th gen Cummins
Hell yeah.
Ram 2500. The stock engine is more than enough power for me. My interest is in trying to boost the MPGs. I know there are a lot of things that can be done, but the thing I am trying to figure out at the moment is whether there are a particular tuner that would be the best for maximizing MPGs. I'm not sure there is an easy answer for this. If not, basically says, if not, have you guys done a podcast on this subject? A little bit of searching around, but I couldn't find anything specific. Any advice on the podcast would be great. So, Chris, I had replied back to him with the text directly from Duramax Tuner's website talking about MPGs and the best they can expect.
Right.
Now, I've read that, so I didn't think it was fair for me to come on the podcast and just repeat it. Everybody can go read that. That's no big deal. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on this? I'm sure you've gotten this question on the phone from customers.
Yeah, I mean, the strategy here for better fuel economy in a diesel engine is more or less the same reason why diesel engines are as popular as they are. Diesel engine has a higher torque output, right? And it's able to maintain that torque when it's under a load or lower RPMs lugging, if you will.
Sure.
So the idea is when you're trying to get better fuel economy, besides running a realistic tire size, and no, don't call back saying you have a 37, or even a 35. We're talking like a stock tire, 32, 33 inch tall, with the proper driving style. RPM operation is a big thing, vehicle speed in which it's operating at. And then these trucks are getting big. So then you have the resistance of the vehicle itself.
Sure.
Depending on speed.
It's a big brick up front, right?
So with just engine calibration in this 2500 Ram, the transmission tuning is going to be a huge thing for the 68s. Little side note, 68s for the longest time really haven't had the best rap in the industry. And honestly, yeah, they are still the the black sheep of the group when we talk about the Ford transmission or even the Allison 1000 and the LML or the L5P.
Oh, yeah, in that light they suck, right?
But at the same time, the 68 is one of the best stock transmissions that has ever been in a Dodge or a Ram, in my opinion. In factory form, with some calibration support. Okay,
sure.
I'm
trying hard not to take some low blows here, so we'll just leave it alone. But sure,
well,
yes,
we're talking.
I agree with
just
you.
to cover myself, we're talking stock for stock.
Right.
You take a stock 47 or a stock 48. The Asins are going to be a little different. I just don't like the way they operate and drive in the newer trucks. But the 68s are probably one of the more durable transmissions within reason, depending on how you operate it, and depending on supporting mods.
Absolutely.
So I like mine. I have no complaints. But you improve the shift strategy, you improve the lockup of the converter, line pressures for better clutch coupling, and then pair that with some engine uprates where we're able to work on the mid-range torque curve of the engine, help improve on just the power band itself. Now you have the ability to gain on efficiency, okay? And that's more or less the recipe to success. So tuning is going to get you there, but there's these other additions to, if you will, or other practices that need to take place. Driving style, altitude's going to play a role, vehicle speed, tire size, these other, components.
I always love when you cover that stuff because I always forget. Usually what I tell guys is pretty simple. Higher horsepower trucks driven with a lighter foot are going to net better fuel mileage.
Right.
We have a higher peak horsepower. We have more torque being made down low, as Chris had mentioned. Therefore, we're going to use less RPM to travel at the same speed. And that generally, in most general circumstances, is going to net you better fuel mileage.
Well, I wouldn't say it's less RPM to maintain speed. It's going to improve the torque output of the truck, which is going to take less fuel to maintain that RPM.
Fair enough. Well, yeah, depending on speed and what gear we're in, because really the guys who see the biggest fuel mileage gains are like driving 55 miles an hour on the highway, and because of a tune, they actually are able to shift up a gear, run in 6th gear, hold that, so they would operate at a lower RPM. That is where you will see the largest nets. Now, if you're driving 75 miles an hour on the highway...
I'll tell you what.
You're driving 75 miles an hour on the highway, right?
I went 5 hours, and so we're located here in northern Illinois, about an hour north of Chicago. I went on a 5-hour trip northeast into Michigan over the last summer, for a little vacation with me and my daughter. It's a crazy difference with my 2015 Ram. Once you get past 70, 75, it's all downhill from there.
Yeah,
if you can keep it in that 70, 75 sweet spot, like 70, 72 to be exact, I could say, like, hand calculated 21. I think the one Phillip was like 21.7.
That's about the best I've gotten in a 3/4 ton as well.
You get to 80, 85, man.
It's
18,
garbage.
If you're lucky, 19.
I was going to say, I've been quite a bit under that, doing 85.
And I'm just like,
but
shit. Well, going back from UCC 2018 that you just reminded me about that I dipped out early on.
Yeah.
I was cruising like 90, 90-ish.
And you got like 16, 17.
It was like 16, 17, it was in the midst of the summer, 100-degree day.
Well, plus a lot of quick acceleration, fast decel on and off, because I know you drive like an asshole.
I'm not...
Not scared of the throttle, as others would phrase it.
I'm not scared.
So that's our thing on fuel mileage is, and then I think one of the other general questions that our buddy Dylan had here was, just in general, is there a best tuner out there? No. All the tuners are going to run into the same physical limitations. So the only way to maintain drivability and get better fuel mileage, really, everybody's going to be in the same ballpark. You're not going to find one custom tuner or one box tuner that's really great or that's really terrible. That's generally not a thing. If you have massive differences in fuel mileage, especially once we're talking about for his truck, I mean, probably EFI Live or MM3, either one of those.
Or an Easy Link.
Or an Easy Link, yeah. Everybody out there in the market is, like I said, running against the same physical limitations. So if there's any major differences, it's in something else. There's something else going on. It's not like anybody... It's not physically possible for one guy to get 30 MPG
and then
with
the next
custom.
guy to get 22.
You're right. That's not a thing.
Something's off.
Yeah.
Something's off in one way or another.
Yeah, a lot of claims out there. I do want to say that I did a quick Google search on this just to see what customers would find. So I clear all my web browsing history and all my cookies.
Typed in Cummings with a GZ and then MPG.
Not quite that bad,
No.
but just I went for Cummins custom tuning.
So not Cummings.
MPG. Yeah, no, I did the Cummins.
Cummings.
Yeah, I did not do the Cummings. You can say it as many times as you want. I did not type a G at the end of it.
That's a really popular Craigslist
I know
search.
it is. I know it is. I'm not saying that we... Yeah, keywords. But anyways, I did find a lot of guys out there claiming that they were the best for mileage in your Duramax or in your Cummins. They were the best for
bold.
MPG.
Well, I mean, even when we get guys that call in on the phone, like, what kind of mileage am I going to see? Well, I don't know, sir. How do you drive? Well, what can you promise me? Nothing.
Yeah.
I'll promise you horsepower and torque. I'll promise you throttle response. I'll promise you drivability improvements. But fuel economy, that's not coming out of my mouth. I'm not doing it.
And I would generally say anybody who's making those wild claims about MPGs or the best at MPGs, in infomercial math, is that a thing we can talk about?
How about that quick seal? You ever see that quick seal, the infomercial?
Yeah,
quick seal?
yeah.
Dude, I bought it. That shit worked.
Yeah,
that shit worked.
Well,
so maybe...
Not really agreeing with my recommendation here.
I just wanted to see your reaction. Totally kidding. All right. So... Enough on that. You know what? That segue. You know what's really cool? When it comes to fuel economy, you got to make sure that you have healthy fuel injectors and injection pumps.
Ooh, nice,
dude! Right?
Nice. You've been practicing.
I know, man. I'm learning from the best, man.
Yeah, somebody you were listening to on the radio.
Yeah,
I take it.
You know, it's just this fucking podcast that I listen to. So yeah.
All right, so we're going to kick off Exergy's do's and don'ts talking about fuel systems here. Exergy, I'm going to tackle the do here. So I ran into this actually just a few weeks ago. It was a little low on fuel in my diesel car there. So
it's an SUV. It's a sport utility vehicle.
Yeah. Okay. So my X5, right? My X5 35D, if we want to get technical,
on 22s.
On
just
20.
Hood as fuck.
It's awkward to see me drive it, people. Just as awkward as it sounds. So I do drive an X5 35D on 22s.
Are you a Tupac or Biggie guy? I just want to ask.
Biggie.
And that's why we don't get along. There's this whole East Coast West Coast tension.
There's no way you have the attention span to listen to Tupac's lyrics.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I don't believe that.
I swear to God.
Anyways.
All right.
West Coast for light. No.
Well,
other way.
You would have been East Coast, you idiot.
Yeah. That's how white I am.
Clearly, you don't have the attention span to listen to Biggie.
Yeah, true. True story. I mean, you asked Fan, I know like 2 songs.
For sure.
Right? Who Shot Ya?
Big Papa.
Juicy, rookie. Come on, man. I'm old like that.
Oh, God.
All right. Anyways, enough of our Tupac and Biggie. The do for Exergy's do's and don'ts is do properly inspect your backup fuel can before refilling it. The reason I bring this up is I ran into it the other week. I went to go grab the 5-gallon diesel can out of my garage. I looked inside it. It'd been empty forever. It was just nasty inside.
You're asking for trouble.
Just raunchy inside. And even like the funnel, you flip the spout around, the funnel comes out. All of it was just disgusting. I had to take it in, first of all, I learned a long time ago, you don't clean like fuel tanks and things like that in the basement of your house.
No.
Because you will explode the furnace and start the house on fire. It happened to a friend's, some relatives.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Saw it happen, right?
Okay.
So I saw the aftermath of that. So anyway, I brought it inside. I fill it up with Dawn, and I fill it up with water, shake it all up. It's cold. I mean, we're in Northern Illinois. This is a few weeks ago.
It's rough.
So it's cold. So I went and now I have this disgusting fuel I have to figure out how to get rid of, which I think is still sitting in a trash can in my garage. But yeah, no. So anyways, it was a huge process to have to clean this pain in the ass thing, and then realizing that like, wow, I really would have been happy to go to the store and just buy a new can. But anyways, what's important is I didn't just take it and run down there and fill it with fuel and then dump it into my car or something like that. That would be crazy.
I think as you get a little older and you have something that you take a little bit more appreciation and respect in, it's not the word I'm looking for. You get what I'm saying.
Yeah,
right?
so
you take
what
pride
I
in
find
what you
is
have.
you do. You take pride in what you have, and you also get really cheap is the thing I'm learning. The older I get, the cheaper I become.
definitely.
Where I'm just
cheaper.
like, I've had to piss away money on so many other things, like diapers that I just that get filled up and thrown out.
Right.
That now I'm like,
money on shit.
I have this real hard time with like going to just spend I think $15 on a new can.
If you were 16 or 17 years old, you would have taken that can, dirty as shit, filled it up with fuel, put it in your car, and away you would have went.
Oh yeah.
Just like you were probably the same type of person that if you had a bucket sitting in your fucking garage, and you wanted to wash your vehicle, you would simply put water in there and then use that water that's already contaminated with shit and then wash your vehicle.
Sure. Yeah. Right. Done it.
So like for me, it's been programmed for years. Like my dad, like, no man, it was. I love you, Dad. Anyways, so it's one of those things. Like for me, that's like the first thing you are programmed to do. We have these big 55-gallon drums of oil here, right?
Yeah.
You know, when I do like an oil change and I use one of the buckets or one of the canisters, whatever you want to call it, right? The same thing applies. You take the bottle, you rinse it, you clean it, you make sure it's all cleaned out, the funnel included. So that's something that's like programmed to me. So I wouldn't even think of that. If someone called me on the phone, I'd be like, yeah, fill up, do whatever you got to do. But that's kind of a step. Like what you're mentioning, that's a step.
Just look in there, Yep. I mean, it was one of those easy things that I think it would have been really easy to overlook, like you said. If you're not anal retentive and crazy like that, it would have been really easy to overlook that and dump it in. And hey, my fuel filters probably would have caught it. It probably wouldn't have destroyed my vehicle, costing me thousands of dollars.
Right, but hold on, there's something here. You're saying probably because there's a potential that
there is a potential.
So why risk it?
And there's also a long-term just reality.
Hold on. Why the fuck did you have your truck at your house that low on fuel that you had to take a fuel canister and go to the fuel station?
I probably didn't. But it was like one of those where I was already taking my wife's car to go fill her car up with gasoline. And I looked and I had like an eighth of a tank in my car.
And it was cold.
And I'm like, throwing 5 gallons in it probably just made sense. I'm like,
it makes sense.
I could have made it to the station. But
I'm not trying to call you off for all our listeners.
No. Hey, listen, I'm lazy. That's no secret.
All right, so let's go to the don't, right? Don't mistake cold weather white smoke for bad injectors. So my I call my black Ram the cum daddy. Okay,
Yep.
Just be honest. Anyone that follows me on social media will see that.
Loser.
I don't care. Like that's the silver truck was the cum dog. This one's the cum daddies. It's a little nicer than what my 07 was.
Because you're a dad now.
I am a dad now. Yeah. So one of the mixed perceptions that guys have is if you have white smoke coming out the tailpipe, you have bad injectors. Well, guys, when it's 40 below, you're going to have smoke come out the tailpipe until it's like 10 degrees, right? There's going to be a little something. So I was driving to work, and one of my buddies, who's not that intelligent, I'm not going to lie, you know who you are, he calls me. He goes, man, what's going on with your truck? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, man, it's white smoking out the back. I'm like, is it like trailing or is it like evaporating right after the tailpipe? He's like, well, it's evaporating. I'm like, are you new?
Bro.
Like,
Bro.
Serious? Like, is this real? So, guys...
he's got really nice rims, though.
Yeah, he does have nice rims. I had another buddy who had those back in like 2012, right?
Yeah.
He was a rock star, superstar.
Right.
More of an acquaintance.
Not
but
lame.
Either way,
right.
yeah, kind of.
Check.
But he's got
a lot
the
of
coolest
inside
truck.
jokes there.
Anyways,
but what we're saying
is that, be aware of your surroundings, right? And there's going to be different characteristics. There's going to be different reactions to how your vehicle is going to operate when it is so cold. And now all of our listeners, you might have the luxury of not dealing with this. But I will say to our guys that are in Florida or Texas, where it's 30, 40, 50 degrees right now, my vehicle reacts differently when it's 80, 90 degrees out versus 40, 50 degrees.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a difference. So the weather does play a big role.
No, for sure. I also think it plays into this thing about like thorough diagnostics, right?
Yes.
I used to take a lot of phone calls from customers who saw some white smoke out of the tailpipe, and they want to jump on the phone, call somebody. That's fine. You can get other people's ideas and kind of come up with a game plan. But what's always most important, what's always going to get you to the best place, is just thorough diagnostics. So if you do see white smoke coming out when it's cold out, and you're like, oh man, it's my injectors. Okay, bring the truck up to operating temp. Check the balance rates. If balance rates are good at operating temp, probably not so much worry about white evaporating smoke, looking into things further than just that first glance. We've seen a lot of guys jump on and buy parts for their truck, whether it's turbo or injectors or transmissions, and then come to find out it was something totally different.
And there was a phone call that I had a couple weeks ago, not to take too much time up, but the gentleman was like, oh, I took it to a shop and these were the symptoms. And I was like, okay. I was like, I'm telling you, this was a guy who wanted to buy injectors. And I flat out told him, I was like, I'd like to help to some degree, if you're willing to cooperate, but I really don't want to sell you injectors because injectors aren't going to fix it. And he was like, so what does that mean? And I told him, politely, like, I don't want to sell you $3,000 in parts. It's not going to fix your issue. Now I'm married to your problem.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a rude way when I talk to guys, but understand from my perspective, I have a little more insight, because I deal with it. And I'm not saying I'm better than anyone else. That's not the case. But let's diagnose the truck properly. Maybe a couple $100 in diag from a shop now is going to potentially save you thousands of dollars and install.
Yeah.
It's just thinking ahead.
And keep in mind, hey, we're around this every day. We're quote unquote, I'm doing air quotes like they can see us on a podcast, but quote unquote experts. We misdiagnose our own stuff on I don't want to say a regular basis, but it has happened. Chris has done as well.
I have not.
Not true. Anyways,
no, never. I'm perfect.
Chris, your trans was shifting rough. You want to talk about it?
No, that was tuned.
That was improperly diagnosed. Anyways.
Improperly used.
Anyways, my point being is that we have misdiagnosed stuff and found that our initial thought of, hey, what is this problem? I'm like, I've told this story before. I used to have a Kodiak. It wouldn't shift up. I couldn't get it up to 55.
But that threw everyone in the shop for a loop.
Wouldn't shift into overdrive. Nobody could. We all talked about the symptoms. We all went through all of the basic questions. I Q&A'd like the first 5 questions we do on all of our cars with at least 3 or 4 different people. And even after we dropped the transmission pan, the filters, put new fluid back in all of it, went out and ran it, and all of this, we finally thought, hey, let's take it one step further. Let's actually go data log this. And at the time we thought this is just so obvious what the issue is. There was no need to waste our time data logging. But taking that little bit of extra time to going and looking at something and properly diagnosing it, found out, hey, this has nothing to do with the transmission. The fuel pressure is only making like 5,000 PSI. It can barely run. Of course, it can't do 55 miles an hour.
Well, let's talk about, and this is, we get a lot of inquiries on through the shop regarding a YouTube video that we did several years ago, and it was on the 0087 1093. So we'll have LBZ, LOI, LMM customers call in, and the conversation goes one of 2 ways, essentially. But what it amounts to is the trucks get up to operating temp. They're under a load of some sort going up a grade or towing, and the truck will drop rail pressure. But when the truck doesn't have a trailer behind it and the truck's stock, it's fine.
Right.
And, these trucks all generally seem to have 180 to, 200, 220 plus thousand miles. And they're like, oh, I need a relief valve. And it's okay, I'll say the relief valve. That's fine. But that's probably not what the issue is. And then you have to go into, well, the truck's at operating temp. It's getting warm. The viscosity of the fuel is getting low. Things like that. And then you kind of go through this whole troubleshooting thing. And then they're like, so what are you telling me? And it's like, well, the injector itself has a common thing. And we ran into this a few years ago with a Kodiak here in-house. That this truck went from shop to shop to shop. And we didn't believe it at the time. That was one of the first ones that we had seen. Or maybe it was like the second or third to solidify what we, were our thesis.
And even with that one, we're not in a place where we could go and test the problem they were actually having. We had to put it on the dyno and simulate it and run it multiple times. And then even then, they bottle tested the injectors to find out, 8 different times it only failed 1 time.
But you can't bottle test the truck at operating temp or warmer than operating temp. So the fuel, the viscosity is thicker. So it's not going to be able to travel into the orifices or the areas that it could travel into more so when the fuel's thinner.
Yeah.
So diagnostics is everything. Knowledge is key. It sounds so cheesy and cliche to say that, but you got to know what you're getting yourself involved into.
There's a reason, though. Yeah.
When you're, talking about $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 worth of parts.
Absolutely. And hey, talking about cold weather and some of the things that have been going on lately with properly looking at your truck and looking at your truck the right way, we want to talk a little bit about the Duramax Tuners Diesel Insights video. We just put out that cold weather one.
Yes.
A lot of passionate responses on that. Oil temp still matters, absolutely. Negative 30 is different than plus 30. You should treat your truck differently in those situations. We understand that. But just in case you guys missed it, there's also just as of today, which I think we're going to drop this episode the same day we're recording it, as of today, there is a new Ford towing and tuning. So we looked at the Ford 6.7 liter and said, hey, man, if you're going to put a tune on this truck and you're going to tow with it, there's probably some information that you're going to want to know. So there's a new Diesel Insights video out about that. Check it out on Duramax Tuner's YouTube channel. Should also be on the Calibrated Power YouTube channel as well.
Cool.
So good plug for that.
Yeah.
Chris, we're excited for UCC. Big thanks and a shout out to Matt Chambers and the boys over at Alligator Performance. Really excited to do some hosting at the live event for that. KJ and the boys over at Diesel Power Magazine, we're really excited to see them at UCC. Sounds like we're going to be going out to Diesel Power Challenge again as well.
Yeah.
Super excited to have you and our producer Justin there this year.
And then I think to wrap it up, another special thanks, WC Fab, Exergy, and of course Duramax Tuner and Calibrated Power, as they are the sponsors of the show, and they fund this to allow us to do it. So
awesome. Cool, man. Well, guys, for today, this has been Paul Wilson.
And Chris Emke.
Thanks for listening.
The Diesel Performance Podcast is brought to you by Calibrated Power Solutions, home of DuramaxTuner.com. Calibrated Power develops emissions-equipped calibrations for a wide variety of diesel powertrains, including the Duramax, Cummins, PowerStroke, John Deere, Case, New Holland, and many more. For more information and great customer service, check out calibratedpower.com or call 815-568-7920. That's 815-568-7920.
There's just so many possible things that could go wrong, like ones if something wasn't tightened down.